Hello, so today is the 29th of March. More specifically in the Chinese calendar, it is Moon 2 Day 11. So yesterday we were talking about the inner landscape, the way we move, the way we move chi, prana, etc., and consciousness from all the way from the coccyx or the perineum up the spine to the fontanelle or the crown. It was quite a long one yesterday, so I'm going to try and keep today's a little bit shorter. So today is about the outer landscape. So anyone who's ever looked at things like ley lines and earth grids and all that kind of stuff, this is more about this, and this is the way the history of Taoists would work with the land and look for specific places in the world that had specific energies that they could tap into for their own spiritual progression. Okay. So, my name's Ollie, this is Red Sun Horizons. I'm an Eastern Physiotherapies practitioner from the south of the UK, that's Southsea, Portsmouth, England. So today is looking at the outer landscape. So, as always, using as a prompt is the Lunar Tao by Deng Ming Dao. So, and this literally looks at every single day throughout the year, throughout the Chinese lunar calendar, and looks at traditions that would be practiced on each of those days. Some of the days don't have that, and today is one of those, so it's looking at a Taoist tradition in general. So yesterday was the inner landscape, today is the outer landscape, and it starts off with wander the rivers and lakes, chase after the divine breath. So there are people today and in spiritual circles, and I know people, nothing to do with Taoism, but who do exactly this, work with plant spirit, work with ley lines, work with energy lines within the earth, etc. And very much like there's a belief that the earth has chakra centers, much like the human body has chakra centers, and the heart chakra center is in around Glastonbury sort of area in the UK, etc., that kind of thing. The throat chakra is in Egypt, I think in Cairo and all this kind of stuff, and I think the Svatisthana is Lake Titicaca or something like that. Yeah. But the Taoists believe that the earth also had these meridians, which you could think of as ley lines, but I think maybe there's a little bit more in that sense. Okay, so Taoists believe there are special places and energy spots everywhere, and that there are meridians of power or places of the divine breath, just as there are acupuncture meridians in the human body. Taoists literally see the microcosm and the macrocosm as one. Okay, so for example, the spine of a mountain is believed to be a dragon meridian. So walking that line will allow a person to feel the energy of that land. Okay. So the dragon is all to do with spirit and wisdom as well. So, okay, so a place can become stagnant and uncomfortable. So, yeah, an absolute example of that would be somewhere like one of the, I'm trying to think, what's the name now? One of the death camps from World War II, effectively. Which, if I've never been there, but apparently if you ever go there, there's never any bird song, there's never any kind of life there, nothing actually wants to be there or wants to exist there. A place can become stagnant and uncomfortable, another place can seem beckoning and stimulating to one's vitality. Okay, so in ancient times, people believed that heaven was rooted in several places on earth. The 10 greater grottos, the 36 lesser grottos, again it's that number 36, and the 72, two lots of 36, 72 lesser realms were all places where heaven or immortals lived on earth. Okay, this is the bit I like and find interesting. It's heaven is not separate from earth, spirit is not separate from the body, a human being is not separate from the earth, heaven and earth exist within us. So that last line effectively is another thing that the original Christianity also works with, and the original Christianity also was all about very much about reincarnation. The whole heaven being a reward and hell being a punishment is a man-made fiction that got added to it to create a system of control. If you go back to the original, the oldest text we have ever found, which is in Aramaic and is from the time, which was the language from the time of Jesus Christ at the time, effectively it is, you know, one of its main sentences is the kingdom of God is within you and all around you, not within buildings or brick or stone. So one, it just completely dishonorates the need for any church and for any kind of worship place that you pay money into and all that kind of stuff. Completely gets rid of the need for a priest and all that kind of stuff. And it also goes into like love your brother like yourself. So, but yeah, ultimately the kingdom of heaven is within you and all around you. So heaven is a place on earth, Belinda Carlisle, etc. But anyway, so yes, very much the same. So a human being is not separate from the earth. Heaven and earth exist within us. So, and yeah, nirvana and enlightenment and all this kind of stuff, you could think of those as being the heaven state in that sense. So Christ consciousness is something that people are trying to work with rather than trying to worship in spiritual circles. They don't completely integrate with any religion. So we are at 6.5 minutes. That's not too bad. So I don't think there was anything else I was going to add to that, but working with the land is a big thing as well, and grids as well. There's I think of, I can probably see the thing on here. Bear with me, I'm going to literally just drop off of camera to this. Emily Kisvardi. So this woman is a prolific grid worker, earth-based grid worker working with the land, and does a lot around the world historically and is well known. But this is her oracle deck on sacred geometry. So sacred geometry ultimately is geometry, but it has the meanings behind things, all that kind of stuff. But it is one of the decks I work with every month, because ultimately it's one of those areas where science and the supernatural converge, and to basically okay. So the last bit on that is yes, there is a lot. If you look into sacred geometry, that's a good name to look into, and it's something, again, another way of working with crystals, but also working with consciousness, and even like finding out where you are best placed to live your optimal life or to serve your ultimate purpose, all that kind of stuff. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, she's a good place to start. Excuse me. Okay, so last bit I'm going to do is read a bit from the Tao Te Ching, and that is, without opening your door, you can open your heart to the world. Without looking out your window, you can see the essence of the Tao. The more you know, the less you understand. The master arrives without leaving, sees the light without looking, achieves without doing a thing. Excuse me. Okay, there we go. So yeah, yesterday ran on a lot. I actually filmed yesterday's twice because it went like well over 20 minutes. I thought, screw it, I'm going to start again, and it went over 20 minutes again. I may have refined it down a little bit, but it was still, yeah, a lot of information. So, but yeah, from the outer stuff, obviously can't really demonstrate. It's not something I work with, particularly myself, too much, other than going to certain sites. You can kind of feel the energy. Going to Glastonbury, going to somewhere like the Chalice Wells, the Peace Gardens, all that kind of stuff. Had different experiences each time I've gone there, and like sense when the trees were dying, sense when the trees were growing, all that kind of stuff. And Glastonbury is an amazing place if you're starting to like get more into like working with energies. If you start getting into healing modalities like Reiki, you will start to amplify that as well. Advanced Qigong sort of levels, you start to feel all that again. But Glastonbury is somewhere that is really heightened if you're in the UK. This is. So if the weight of the world is very heavy that time, Glastonbury is really heavy. If the weight of the world is like up in the stratosphere, Glastonbury is like amplified of that as well. So it is a really nice way that you can kind of like get more of a sensation, start to work with your own intuition and sensitivity towards energies. That would be, and if you know of anywhere else, obviously if you're in a different country and you find anywhere else like that kind of thing, Giant's Causeway, all that kind of just jumped into my head, and obviously Stonehenge, these are all UK based things, but within your own country, there will be those as well, and those are places where you can go to and, you know, really start working with energy if that's what you're interested in. But again, that name is Emily Kisvarda, so standard spelling Emily, Echo Mike India Lima Yankee. Kisvarda is Kilo India Sierra Victor Alpha Romeo Delta Alpha. It's a good starting place. So I will leave it there for today, and tomorrow is obviously Moon Day, day 12, and it is talking about the universe. So nice and short. Okay, I will leave it there for tomorrow, and I will see you tomorrow.